They gave India railways, cricket and bureaucracy. But now historians say that the British may have left India with much worse.
The general consensus that the British would like to give you is that they were really good colonizers compared to, for example, the Belgians in the Congo. But when you actually look at the figures, you see that there were at least 50 million excess deaths in the period between 1880 and 1940. And some people say, in fact, it might have been even like 100 million.
Recent analysis by economic historian Robert C. Allen suggests that extreme poverty in India more than doubled under the British, with real wages falling and famines increasing in frequency and severity.
Some scholars say that at this period, the Indian life expectancy dropped to 22 years. 22, which is like, when you think about it, it's unbelievable.
We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall never surrender.
And while Winston Churchill was leading the fight against the Nazis in World War II, experts now say he caused a massive famine in 1943 in Bengal, which produced a third of India's rice. With the Japanese invasion of neighbouring Burma, he introduced a scorched earth policy, destroying significant rice fields to deny Japanese invaders food supplies. And that's not all.
There is no doubt that, if not overtly, certainly covertly, he contributed to the death rate. Because he actually redirected and stopped ships carrying produce to the Bengal Delta, because he was scared that the Japanese in the Second World War would take over the ships. And he was not particularly empathetic to the population there. He didn't sort of really feel the need to rush in to try and save them.
In her book, Churchill's Secret War, journalist Madhusri Mukherjee reported that the PM thought the Indian army was useless. And the Secretary for India, Leo Amory, wrote in his diary, Churchill said sending relief would be no good, as Indians breed like rabbits anyway.
I feel that Churchill was focused on the saving of the empire for Britain. He was not focused on the welfare or well-being of the colonial subjects. I mean, there is enough evidence in the War Cabinet papers to show that.
With the average daily ration of about 400 calories, the same as Buchenwald concentration camp prisoners, it's estimated that more than 3 million people died as a result.
My parents were actually in Calcutta during the famine in 42-43, and they experienced a kind of trauma that stayed with them till their deaths. My mother used to tell me the story of how there would be skeletal people in the street begging for the water drained from cooking rice, asking for starch water. How there would be dead bodies that there were not enough people to cremate, which would just lie there. It had a terribly traumatic impact on them, and they remembered it for the rest of their lives.
And when other El Nino weather events caused more droughts, it's thought the East India Company and the British Raj maladministration resulted in millions of needless deaths. But despite a massive population increase, India hasn't experienced major famines since independence 75 years ago.
The British have got off relatively lightly in terms of their colonial rule. And the reason I think for that is the way in which they have controlled the archives. And they have written the story of colonialism, and it has been about education, trains, legal regimes. It has not been about hunger, famine, deindustrialization, immiseration. All of those have disappeared from their history books.